Bunch of the Year, and I'm honored to be invited back to do it. Each year this organization recognizes the work of women who have truly changed the world in our area. We are all privileged to stand on the shoulders of the women who have come before us, and you all, our honorees today, have paved the way for us and continue to pave the way for us. What you have accomplished inspires the rest of us to think that there is nothing we can't do with some talent, a will, and great examples along the way. I'm incredibly lucky myself to have had sort of foremothers and role models in my own family. My great-grandmother, Agnes Meyer, was a formidable woman, and what she made her mission in life was education. She worked energetically and sometimes at the top of her lungs throughout her life for public education. As early as 1944, she began her crusade for the establishment of a cabinet-level department to deal with issues such as health, education, and welfare. Anyone who knew Agnes knew she never shrank from expressing herself. In fact, President Truman once complained that there wasn't a day that went by that he didn't get a letter from two people, Eleanor Roosevelt and what he called that Meyer woman. Some of you may be more familiar with my grandmother, Katharine Graham, who was really my role model. As a mother, a wife, and a working woman in what was really very much a man's world then. One of my favorite stories that she used to tell was the tradition of dinner parties in Washington, and then after the dinner, the women were supposed to go in another room together to talk about whatever they were talking about for an hour while the men talked about important things like business and politics. And I just went back and looked at her book, and she described her friend Sissy Patterson saying of this tradition, "Let's hurry through this. I have no household problems and my daughter is grown." But as she noted, it was just the way it was done. And even early on, after she had started working and running the Washington Post and spending her day talking about politics and business and world issues, she just kind of kept going along because that's just the way it was done. And then one day she wrote she was at dinner at Joe Alsop's house, and something just snapped for her. And when he said, "Okay, it's time for the women to go in the next room," she said, "No, Joe, I'm sorry. I hope you'll understand I'm not going to go next door and talk to the women. I want to be part of this discussion, and if I can't be, I'm going to go home." And she thought he was understand and say, "Just go home," and he said, "No, that's ridiculous." And so, although he was angry, she said, but he did allow the women to stay that night, and then apparently after that, sort of word spread, and women stopped going and talking about household issues or whatever after dinner. So now I want to turn to the women we're honoring here today, who have broken their own barriers and set a whole new bar for women everywhere. Our recipients of the Foremothers Lifetime Achievement Award, Diane Rehm, Dr. Omega Silva, Ruth Lubick, and our policy hero, Dr. Catherine DeAngelis. The newest members of the Special Society of Remarkable Women known as Foremothers. What you guys have in common is equally as important as what each of you have done in the different areas in which you've operated. Here's some of what I think makes you all so remarkable. Nearly 50 years ago, Katharine Graham was worried about all the work that needed to be done here in D.C. and said the time for action was yesterday. Luckily for us, each of you acted yesterday and today. You took action then and you continue to take action. She also said it would be easy to be completely discouraged in light of all these hard realities, and I think we all feel that all the time. Well, reality seems to be getting particularly hard, but none of you were discouraged by anything. She said we need all the help we can get, the passionate supportive advocacy groups, the expertise available wherever it comes from, and most of all, we need the involvement of individuals. You took on tasks not only because of the office you held or the organization you worked for or the people you served, but because you as an individual wanted to work for what you believe in. You went above and beyond because you made a personal decision that you cared deeply, that this was vital work that needed to be done. Finally, in thinking about what you all have in common, my grandmother once said, it was about the importance of our willingness to work for the welfare of other people's children. What you have done is work for others, not for yourselves, not for your own gain, but for other people's children and for generations to come. You have improved, educated, and in some cases saved countless lives. And just as importantly, you've changed the lives of many of us in this room by motivating us to become leaders as well. Whether you realize it or not, you've given us all the strength to work on behalf of other people's children who will follow us, give us energy to keep up the good fight for our own causes. And the whole time, you've made it look easy. Thank you so much for all that you've done, and congratulations today.